All right, so let's look back again at the Treaty of Versailles and how this is going to lead into World War II. I like to say that the Treaty of Versailles certainly lays the groundwork for World War II, but it does not make World War II inevitable. First and foremost, Germany has to assume all responsibility for the war. They receive all the blame. It's often what we refer to as the war guilt clause. Keeping in mind that Germany didn't start it, that this started as a conflict between Serbia and Austria-Hungary. But in the aftermath of the war, by 1919, a lot of these countries, like the Ottoman Empire and Austria-Hungary, they had basically been disbanded and broken apart. And so Germany is the last one standing and is going to have to assume a lot of the responsibility for the war as part of the Treaty of Versailles. Germany's army, which had been a great source of pride going into the war, is greatly reduced as part of the terms of the treaty. There are several areas that become demilitarized, which means they can't have the military at all. The army is greatly reduced in number, and the Air Force and Navy are disbanded. So again, this once great German military, this source of pride for the German people, has been greatly reduced. And it leaves them feeling kind of powerless and angry, and also very vulnerable to outside influence or outside attack. Germany also loses a lot of land as a result of the Treaty of Versailles. The map that you see on the slide talks about the Alsace-Lorraine region, and they also lose a chunk of land to what will become Poland. The Alsace-Lorraine region that they lose to France was something that they had gained during the Franco-Prussian War when they had defeated France. And this becomes a point of contention between the two because the Alsace-Lorraine was very mineral rich. But in addition to losing the land to Poland and France, they also lose a lot of their colonial holdings in Africa and Asia to other European countries. One of the most burdensome parts of the Treaty of Versailles is that Germany has to pay back war debt or pay war reparations to many of the Allied nations like France and Great Britain and Belgium. This is going to place a huge burden on a country whose economy is already weakened as a result of the war. And we're going to talk in just a minute about the economic collapse of Germany. And a large part of the reason the economy collapses is because of these war reparations. The end result is, though, that this treaty creates a lot of anger and resentment as a result of the terms and the assumption of war guilt and the assumption of war debt and the loss of the military. So Germany becomes very angry and upset as a result of the war. All right, so with the Treaty of Versailles and the end of World War I, it's important to understand that the Germans felt very betrayed. They felt betrayed by the countries that forced them into signing the Treaty of Versailles, and they also felt betrayed by their own government, which agreed to the Treaty of Versailles as the terms of surrender. So the Germans felt very betrayed and very mistrustful of the new democratic government that had come in at the collapse of the German government. They were upset and angered by their leader's decision to surrender when they did. They felt that maybe they should have held out longer, tried harder. And they were incredibly resentful by the fact that the government agreed to the Treaty of Versailles, that they did not fight the terms of the treaty, which made them assume the war debt and assume the war guilt and disband the military. In particular, the war reparations, the paying back of the war debt to the Allied nations, is going to have a huge economic impact on Germany. The German economy collapses as a result of the fact that in order to pay the war debt faster, they print more money. This floods the market with the German mark, and it causes the value of the money to go down. Combined with other factors that were going on in Germany's and the German economy, this caused rampant inflation. And what inflation is rapid price increases, particularly in relation to the value of the money. So basically what's happening is the value of the money is going down, but the price of everything is going up. So you have this inverse relationship where money values down, price goes up. And salaries do not keep up with inflation. So basically, the German economy collapses. They have incredibly high unemployment. It becomes incredibly difficult to buy food. And in fact, the money practically becomes valueless. And the picture that you see on the slide shows a woman stuffing money into a fireplace, basically burning money because she couldn't afford to buy coal. Now, this is a piece of propaganda, but it was, in some cases, a harsh reality for some of the German people. Another thing that you have to understand that's going on in the 1920s is the rise of communism. Communism becomes popular, particularly among the working class, and there was this idea that the communist influence would spread to Germany, and they were very scared of it leaving Russia and coming to Germany. And they were afraid that Germany in its weakened state would be vulnerable to communist influence and communist invasion. So they were very concerned about the increasing communist agenda and communist influence coming into Germany. And another problem that really develops is that you have all of these competing political parties. So in the absence of the government, which had been in place for a long time in Germany, you have all of these political parties that are vying for control. And many of these political parties are extremists. The National Socialist was just one of them, and it wasn't even one of the most extreme political party that develops during this time period. And many of these political parties that do develop use violence to push forward their agenda. So here you have people who feel betrayed, their economies collapsed, they're afraid of the communist enemy, and they have all of these different competing interests in political parties, and riots and uprisings are common as different groups try to push their agenda, even through the use of force. So the National Socialist Workers' Party, or the Nazi Party, was just one of the many political parties that was vying for control of the German government in the years after World War I. The National Socialist Workers' Party became very popular among veterans, and it began in 1918, literally as the war was ending. It became very popular again among veterans of World War I, particularly those that were very embittered and resentful of what happened during World War I and in the wake of World War I with the Treaty of Versailles. Adolf Hitler would be one of the veterans of World War I that will join the National Socialist Party, and he'll join it in 1919. And he rises through the ranks pretty quickly in the 19-teens and early 1920s, and will actually take part in a rebellion known as the Bürgerputsch in Munich in 1923. The message of the National Socialist Party, or the Nazi Party, was really to unite a broken Germany and erase the shame that resulted from the war guilt clause of the Treaty of Versailles. So their goal was to reunite this Germany that had been broken by the terms of the treaty and the failure of the government to negotiate a good terms of surrender, as well as erase the shame left over from the Treaty of Versailles and the loss of World War I. Now, again, in 1923, there will be an attempt at an uprising in Munich. It fails. Many of the Nazi leaders, including Adolf Hitler, end up in jail. And in fact, it is during this time that Adolf Hitler will write his manifesto, Mein Kampf, which means my struggle. But despite the fact that they do rebel and it fails and they end up in jail, it gains in popularity. The trial of these leaders of the National Socialist Party, it becomes this big public forum, and people hear and they listen in to what happened in the trial, and it became a big publicity coup, a big bonus for the National Socialist Party, or the Nazi Party. And coming out of the failed coup in 1920, they actually gain in popularity. And the main thing you have to understand that they were really preaching in these 1920s, it wasn't about killing the Jews. It wasn't about taking over Europe. They were promising to stabilize the government, restore the economy, rebuild German industry, bring back the military to its pre-war glory days, prevent the spread of communism, and restore German honor, to bring Germany back to what it was before the war, this proud, amazing, and wonderful nation. So in the early 1920s, it is important to understand that they were preaching a message that appealed to many, many German people, a message of returning Germany to what made it